All right, welcome everybody. So I'll invite you to get started in a shape that works for you. I'm going to do child's pose, but you could do seated too if you like, and we'll just kind of get centered and get started there. So child's pose, you could have your knees really wide, you could have them really close together. Just kind of finding that spot that works for you to get started. Arms could be out in front of you or by your sides. I often quite like reaching the arms out, palms together, and then bending the elbows so that the thumbs come to the upper back or the back of the neck. And then just start to breathe along your back body. Breathe into the earth. Taking a moment to connect with yourself, with how you're feeling in your body today. And also connecting with the ground, the land beneath your body, and how you're in relationship with that land today. And I'd like to be working in a little bit of a slow and steady kind of energy today. And as always, you can adjust that depending on what's feeling right for you. But I'll just encourage you to find your Ujjayi pranayama, which is a little bit like a metronome of our practice. It has that kind of rhythm to it that we try to stay connected to throughout our practice. There are lots of ways to describe it, but in general, it's this gentle whispering sound at the back of the throat. But I like to think of it as pulling the breath along my midline, wide and open through my ribs. And then on the exhale, there's this drawing back down to the core and the pelvic floor. So it's not, a conscious muscular contraction on the exhale, but we're just kind of allowing for the rhythm of the breath to feel like this lift and open on the inhale, and just connecting to strength on the exhale. You may also like to take a moment just to set an intention for your practice, to remind yourself why you're here, what you might need from your yoga practice, which can be so many different things. It really depends on the day. Just honoring where you're actually at today. And when you're ready, you can bring this into some movement. So take your time. We're sort of aiming towards downward dog, but you could move through cat and cow as I'm doing in a seat, or on hands and knees, or knees and elbows. And again, just staying with your breath. So you might want to keep your eyes closed and just feel that gentle opening on the inhale, arching the back, stretching out the front side, and on the exhale, gathering in, pressing the belly button back towards the spine, kind of enhancing that exhaling feeling. And feel free to play with it. So, you can make circles, you can move side to side, or you could just keep it really steady and simple today. This is always true in our practice, but really the place you want to focus is the breath, not necessarily the poses. So it's almost like allowing your breath to kind of move for you. And when you feel ready, you can bring it into your downward dog, tucking the toes, lifting the bum, and again, see what feels right for you today. Maybe you're just wanting to be in the pose and breathe. Maybe you're wanting to bend one knee at a time and move your hips around. Again, wherever you are, just let the breath guide you. Think of a little bit of a bend in the elbows and hug them slightly together as you kind of deepen your shoulders into their sockets. Relax the head if that's possible. And when you're ready, walk to your hands coming into standing forward bend, taking your feet as wide as you like them. You could be hanging over your legs. You could be resting your elbows on your knees. You could be holding opposite elbows and kind of hanging. Just see what feels right for your body today. And again, every day is different. So we want to honor not what we did last week or yesterday, but just where we are right now. You can certainly do plenty of movement if you like, or just work with stillness. And then we'll roll up if that's appropriate for you. So you can bend your knees, lean back into your heels, gather in your belly, and slowly curl up. If that doesn't work for you, you can walk your hands up your legs, or you can look forward and keep your back nice and flat as you come up. Coming to stand in your Tadasana, your standing witness pose. Lift your toes up as you inhale. As you exhale, spread the toes and sink them into the earth so that you can get this really nice rooted feeling. Find that breath again if you've lost it. That in standing, we can really feel that lift and expansion of the ribs on the inhale in all directions, including the back, and on the exhale, drawing in and down. And we'll take it through our Surya Namaskar. So as you're ready, on an inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, dive over the legs. Lengthen up halfway, and then step your right foot behind you as you exhale and lower down your knee. You could always keep that lifted if you prefer to. Inhale, lengthening, reaching the arms up. And then downward facing dog as you exhale. Inhale into a plank pose. You can definitely do that on your knees. Exhale, lower all the way down, or you could do a little cat and cow there. Point your toes and take a mini cobra, so shoulders roll onto the back. And then downward facing dog from there. On your inhale, your right leg will rise to the sky just as high as feels good. And then step that foot through. Helps to lean a little to the left to get the foot through. Back knee could be up or down. I usually like to work with the knee down for these. Inhaling to rise, and then on the exhale, gently to the back, the top of the mat. Halfway lift, which is like a back bend. So you can have your knees bent. Exhale and fold. Bend the knees, rising all the way up. And then on the exhale, keep going, fold down. Halfway lift, draw forward. And then the left foot gently back for your lunge. Following your inhale into it, press the hips a little forward. And then downward facing dog. Come forward to plank. Again, you can absolutely use your knees. You can lower all the way down, or maybe do a little push-up, hugging those elbows in, keep the shoulders back, and then pull your heart through into upward dog or cobra. This could also be cat and cow, this whole sequence. Okay, exhale back to your downward dog. On an inhale, left leg will rise to the sky, and then step it through. And again, it can help to lean a little bit to the right. Just be gentle with your shoulder there. High or low lunge, rising up on your inhale. Beautiful. And then to the top of your mat. Halfway lift. And melt. Bend the knees, come all the way up. And then hands come together in front of the heart as you exhale. And then we begin the sequence again, reaching up, inhaling. And dive. Lengthen. Right foot back. Follow your inhale into the lunge. And downward dog. So vinyasa can be so many different things. Cat and cow, or inhale forward. Exhale, a little push up. And then inhale into your back bend, shoulders down. Exhale, returning to downward dog. Right leg to the sky. And follow that exhale through. Inhale to rise. And forward fold to the top of your mat. Lengthen. And melt. Bend your knees, rising all the way up. And dive all the way down. Lengthen. Left foot goes back. Follow your inhale into your lunge. Follow your exhale to downward dog. Find your vinyasa variation here, drawing the belly in. Little push up or cat and cow, or lowering all the way down. Inhale, back bend. Downward dog. Left leg will rise on your inhale. And step through. Reaching up. Beautiful. And then forward bend. Lengthen. Softly fold. Bend the knees, rise all the way up. And then bring the hands together in front of your heart. Okay, so I'd like to do one more round, and I want to really do it with the breath. So I just briefly want to teach you something called kumbhaka. Some of you know this. So as you inhale, there's a natural pause between the top of the inhale and the exhale. And then there's the exhale, and there's a pause at the bottom. Okay, so it's just that moment when the breath flips over, there's a pause that's called kumbhaka. In a vinyasa practice, we can use the kumbhaka to help regulate the rhythm of how we're going through the practice. So when we're practicing with the kumbhakas on the inhale, for example, say we want to be in a lunge a little bit longer, we can inhale, inhale, inhale. We're here and we're enjoying it. So we just stay in the kumbhaka. We're not holding the breath, but we're just inhaling. And then we just wait to begin the exhale. So it's not a holding, it's just a pausing in that space. Same with the exhale. If you're in an exhaling movement and you need a little more time, you can just pause at the bottom of that exhale and wait to begin the inhale. So it's really a dance between the body moving and the breath moving so that the two can dance together. Is that making sense for everybody? Okay, awesome. So let's practice it. So I want to give you this because I want you to really just enjoy your Surya Namaskar. I'll just cue right foot and left foot, but if you get lost, don't worry too much about it. Okay, it's just be in your flow. Focus on the breath and just kind of go through the sequence with your rhythm in a way that feels good for you, and just let yourself enjoy those places where you might want to pause or need a little bit more time. Okay, any questions? We good? Give me a thumbs up. We're excited. Good. Awesome. So just to stand at the top of your mat, you can bring your hands together in front of your heart and just take a moment to find your Ujjayi again. And just begin when you're ready. Trust that you know the sequence. I'll cue the parts that can get confusing. Okay. So you're going to step your right foot back first. Back to downward dog, and you take your vinyasa. And then the right leg is going to rise to step forward. And then we step forward to the top of the mat. And then the left foot is going to step back. And the left leg will step forward. We'll eventually meet back up at the top of the mat. Take your time. I know some of you are already there. And just take a moment to receive that, to feel that. Beautiful. And if that practice worked for you, try to keep it with you as we move through. So you can always modulate your breath a little bit as we go through the rhythm of our practice, okay? Let's lift our toes up again. Spread them apart, reconnect them, then bend your knees, reach forward and up, and come into a chair pose. Gather your belly in, just a natural curve in your lower back, okay? Maybe bring your palms together and bend the elbows. So think about pointing the fingertips sort of back or down, and just hug the elbows together a little bit as you draw the shoulders down your back. Inhale, maybe sink a little deeper energetically or literally. As you inhale, you might rise a little. Exhale, sinking. Really using the heels, maybe even pressing them apart a bit. Try to keep your neck long. One more breath. Beautiful. Then interlace your fingers, press them forward and up as you straighten the legs, just reaching up. And then a gentle side stretch, just softening the knees, leaning over to one side. On an inhale, come through center. And on an exhale, side stretch to the other side. Come up through center, gently release your hands. On an exhale, interlace them. Hug the elbows together, lift the heart. If this isn't comfortable, you could grab a strap or just have your hands on your hips. Lift your heart and then fold forward. So bend the knees generously and fold. If this is really not working for your shoulders, just release them. That's totally fine. Okay, but think about not so much trying to get the hands over your head, but up to the sky, neck again long. And you can be in stillness or try bending one knee at a time and just kind of allowing the chest to turn a little bit from side to side. Nice. And then gently release your hands if you haven't. Take a halfway lift and step yourself back to downward facing dog. Some of you may want to take a vinyasa here. You can. Okay. You can also skip it. Nice. And then bring your knees down so that you can bring your elbows down. So I've got my hands just on the mat parallel here. Palms are down. You could grab a block and put it in between the L's of your hands. Sometimes that helps to give you a little more stability. And if your shoulders really don't like this, you could also bring the hands together, okay? Think of hugging the shoulders a little bit onto your back, draw your belly in gently, and then lift your bum again. So you're in downward dog on your elbows or dolphin dog. Okay, try to just breathe here. Pressing the entire forearm and palm into the earth, not just the elbows. You could look down or relax your head, but the head isn't touching the floor. Okay, from here, we're gonna gently walk the feet back until we're in a plank shape, and you could absolutely put your knees down. Okay, draw your tailbone kind of long, belly in, and try to pull the shoulders gently away from the ears. And you could do this more like elbows and knees if it's not appropriate for you to be working in a plank shape today. Okay, and if you're okay on your belly, just gently release your hips to the earth so you're in Sphinx. If you're not on your belly, you could do child's pose instead. Okay, think about if you're in Sphinx, kind of drawing the floor towards you with your elbows long through your chest and your legs nice and heavy into the earth. Okay, and then you can gently widen your elbows and just come down, take a little rest on your belly. Your arms could be elbows bent, or you could bring them by your sides, just taking a moment to rest. Some of you might want to wobble your hips from side to side. And then we're gonna make our way back into downward facing dog. So if you're on your belly, you can place your hands by your low ribs, bring the shoulders back, gently engage the core, and press yourself up through hands and knees, and then into downward dog. So you'll probably want to walk your hands a little bit farther forward. And you could do this sequence on your hands and knees as well if downward dog isn't working for you. Okay, I'm just going to give you some options for this one. So the right leg is going to extend back. You can roll the hips open and bend your knee if you like. Okay, and then again, in downward dog or hands and knees, on the exhale, you're going to bring your knee into your chest. If you're in downward dog and you want more, bring your shoulders over your wrists. Inhale, open the knee to the right, and then loop it back up to the sky. So we're going to do 3 of those. Okay, bringing the knee in. Maybe you're coming through plank, maybe you're on hands and knees with me. Looping open and to the sky, and we'll do 1 more. And then on the next exhale, bring your foot right through, and we're going to come into warrior 2. So you're going to tuck those back toes under. If you're down, spin the heel, reach your arms up and open. Okay, so front heel in line with the back arch roughly. Hips relatively level, so it helps me to just lower my back hip a little bit. Arms open. And then if you can, try holding the elbows up over your head. And just soften the shoulders down your back. You can look to the long edge of the mat or the short edge. And just coming to your breath. So maybe exploring some relative stillness. What does that mean with the breath? Okay, there's always little micro adjustments that you can do. And if you're feeling like you need a little more movement today, you could also inhale to straighten the leg and exhale to bend. Just see what's working for you today. Okay, next time you inhale, tip back. So keep your elbows over your head if you can, but you're just tilting back, coming into a little mini variation of exalted warrior. Maybe looking up, maybe looking to the side. Stay conscious of your front knee, which is right over your ankle. Okay, gently come through center. Release your arms so you can come into side angle, bringing the elbow to the thigh, left bicep if you can over the ear. You could also have it a hand on the hip. Hug that right bum under you and gently turn your heart open to the sky. You're welcome to stay. Some of you might want to try a half bind, wrapping the right arm around your lower back, seeking the crease of the hip. Your right hand could come down on the inside of the leg on a block or fingertips on the floor or wherever works for you. Again, wrap that right bum under. Think of turning your heart open. Some of you might like a full bind today, so you could come down a little bit lower so that your armpit touches your thigh or close to you. And then see if you can link your fingers or maybe even hold your left wrist with your right hand. Or do none of those things. Inhale, and then as you exhale, gently unwind. Walk the hands along the long edge of the mat as you gently straighten your front leg and parallel your feet so that all your toes are facing the long edge of the mat. You might want to just look at them and make sure they're on the same plane. Sometimes they end up in sort of different places for me. Fingertips just under the shoulders for now. Lift your heart. Soften the knees a little bit. Tip your bum up to the sky. And then try walking your hands forward as you melt your heart back between your thighs. I've got a pretty good bend in my knees here. I like to traction my fingertips into the earth and kind of drag my heart back. So the weight is in my feet and legs. My fingertips are just touching the ground in order to traction my spine, which I could also just sway a little from side to side. You can have your hands wider apart or closer together. It's just a little bit of a different feeling there. So feel free to experiment with that. Relax your head. Really nice. And then gently bring your hands back underneath your shoulders. Turn to the top of your mat. Spin your feet forward and step back to downward facing dog. Optionally move through Vinyasa here or skip it. And remember that cat and cow is an excellent Vinyasa. Child's pose is an option here as well, if you're feeling like that's what you need. Beautiful. Okay, so we're going to do that same thing on the second side. So again, you can do this from downward facing dog or hands and knees. If you're on hands and knees, just draw that belly in a little bit, hug the shoulders back, and then everybody extend the left leg. Inhale, on your exhale, the knee comes into the chest. If you're coming from downward dog, you could bring your shoulders over your wrist. That's just going to add a little bit more work. And then on the inhale, the knee opens to the left and then back up to the sky. So 3 big circles like that. And depending on where you're at today, you're on hands and knees, just working with the hips, or you're on downward dog, or you're adding that plank pose on the exhale. One more. Get something wherever you are. Okay, next time you exhale, bring that foot through, and we're coming into warrior 2. Spin the back heel down, reach the arms up and open. Knee right over the ankle. So when you look down, you want to be able to see the big toe. Okay, and for me, part of that is just a slight tilt of the hips forward. Soften the shoulders. Hold opposite elbows over your head if that's comfortable for your shoulders, and feel the shoulders kind of dropping. You can even rest your forearms on your head depending on, the proportion, the length of your bones. And then next time you exhale, you could gently lean back into this variation of exalted warrior. Sometimes I like to actually deepen the bend in my left knee here. Keep pressing the thigh back, hugging that left thumb under. So good. And then we'll gently come forward, release the arms, bring your elbow to your thigh, And take your right bicep alongside the ear if that's comfortable for your shoulder. Just getting nice and long through the right side body. Keep tucking that left thumb under you. So it's almost like you're rotating the inner thigh outward. That makes sense. A little bit of a turn of the heart open to the sky. And I like to press my elbow down and a little forward. Inhale. You could stay here or try that half bind, wrapping your right arm around your lower back. Bring the fingertips down, maybe onto a block or the floor. You could take any of these variations or none of them. Keep hugging the hip under, turning the heart open to the sky. And if a bind feels accessible, possible today, you could even dip down a little bit lower. So I like to get the shoulder joint in line with the thigh because it's so much easier for that bottom shoulder to get under. And then you could link the fingertips, or maybe you're holding the right wrist with your left hand. But often when we go into the bind, we kind of collapse down. So we need to re-hug the hip under and just work on that turning of the heart open to the sky. Not easy. Okay, inhale, and then as you exhale, just gently unwind your hands, walk the hands along the long edge and parallel the feet so you're in wide-legged forward fold, okay? And again, just adjust your stance if it's a little off center. Start with your fingertips under your shoulders. You can stay here. You can do that same variation we did on the other side with the heart hammocking down, or you could walk your hands in between your feet. Bend the knees a little bit and aim the crown of your head down to the floor. Maybe walk your hands back a little bit more so that the elbows are right over top of the wrists. And then you could play with resting your knees on your triceps. If the floor feels really far away, sometimes that's because the feet are too close together, and widening the feet will make the distance less far. You can also bend your knees quite a bit to stick your bum up. And the more you stick your bum up, the easier it will be to find that balance. Nice, Danielle. Yes, good, beautiful. And then think of pushing the ceiling up with your feet. Yeah, that's it. Good, nice job. Yeah, really good. Beautiful. Okay, and then coming back into wide-legged forward fold if you're not already. If you've got your hands out in front of you, just gently bring them back under your shoulders and let everybody just give the head a little shake. And then come through halfway lift, turn forward to the top of the mat and step back again into downward facing dog. Optionally flow through your lovely vinyasa. Or be still. Awesome. And then bring your elbows down. And then your bum up. So we're coming back into dolphin, downward facing dog. Remember, you can have the block between your hands, or you could bring the hands together. Really pressing the entire forearms down. Then walk your feet back into a plank shape. Feel free to use your knees. Draw your belly in, gently look forward, shoulders back. Let's try to take 5 breaths if you can. Make sure that your bum is not kind of collapsing, and really draw in. After your 5 breaths, release the belly to the earth, or child's pose if you're not on your belly today. Sphinx, just gently lengthening the heart. Squeeze the bum a little bit. Sometimes it helps to just get that nice release into the core and the back. And then you can widen your elbows and come to rest on your belly. If you're in child's pose, just relax there for a moment. Beautiful. Okay, we're going to make our way back to downward facing dog or hands and knees, and we're going to do the same transition that we've been doing. Now, if you are getting tired in your wrists, you can do this on your elbows, and I'll show you a little transition to come through. So I'll do that just for show in case any of you need it. Okay, otherwise we're in downward dog. We're going to take the right leg up to the sky, just like we did before. Same circle. The knee comes into the chest, maybe shoulders over the wrists if you're in downward dog coming to plank, opening the knee to the right, and then back up to the sky. 2 more big circles like that. So you might be adding the plank, you might not be. Three full circles. And then after your third one, on the exhale, step that foot through. If you're on your elbows, come up to your knees, step your right foot forward. Nice and easy, yeah? And then warrior one. So we're gonna tuck those back toes under, take the heel down, reach the arms up. So feet are hips distance now. Tailbone is drawing down and the toes are turned quite a bit forward. Okay, really working that tailbone down, squaring the hips forward, nice and strong through the back leg. And then hold the opposite elbows again. You can stay here, add a little bit of a side stretch to the right. Really pressing that left heel down to the earth. Okay, up through center. Gently release the hands, take them around behind your back, interlace the fingers, grab your strap or hands on hips. Hug the elbows together, straighten your front leg, and gently fold down. So make sure you've got a little bit of a bend in the knee, tipping the heart down and allowing the fist to come up over your head. Or I should say, rather than over your head, like up to the ceiling. So we don't need to sort of flip the hands over, but just open the chest there. And if this feels a little too much, a little too stressful, just bring the hands down. We'll meet there eventually. If you can stand a couple more breaths here, do. And then when and if you're ready, if it feels right for you, bring the hands down onto blocks or the floor and just press a little bit more with that right foot, big toe into the earth, lengthening the right bum behind you and just getting nice and long through your spine. I know some of you like a little rise and fall here, go for it. If you're in a little bit more of a stillness place with me today, just be still. And I should say stillness doesn't really mean stillness. In yoga, it means we're breathing. There's still little micro adjustments. It's just that maybe someone else wouldn't notice that you're moving. Awesome. Okay, next time you inhale, look forward. If you've got blocks, you can bring them with you. Just soften both knees a little bit, hug the inner thighs, and then tip forward into your front leg and lift the back one up. So the blocks and hands or hands can just come forward a little bit. Heart still nice and low, hug those inner thighs and send your left heel to the sky. If you want to practice with your balance a little bit, try taking one or both hands to your ankle. Look at the floor, not your foot. So good. And then gently release both feet to the earth. Take a halfway lift on your exhale, sigh or flutter your lips. Step back to downward dog. Optionally take your vinyasa. I'm not going to make you go through the dolphin dog here again. So just so you know, you can choose if you want to add that vinyasa here or not. Awesome. Okay. So let's return to downward dog or hands and knees or elbows and knees. If you did that on the other side, it might be interesting to do that here. Extend your left leg back. If you're on your hands or elbows, just make sure that you're taking a moment to consciously draw your belly in. On the exhale, bring your knee in towards your chest. Maybe your shoulders are coming forward if you're in downward dog, into plank. Open the knee to the left and then back up to the sky. 2 more big circles like that, optionally adding that core plank. And if you're on hands and knees or elbows and knees, it's not like you're not doing any core. Okay, so just be aware that there is some of that happening here. It's just in a different place. Okay, and then next exhale, after your 3, you can step forward. If you're on your elbows with me, you can just come up to your knees. Step that left foot forward. And then you can use your fingertips to help you balance up into warrior 1. Hips squaring. Arms can come up, and again, you can hold opposite elbows. Think of, I really like to think of kind of weight from my tailbone down the back of my leg into my heel. So my pubic bone is drawing up a little bit, and I get that lovely lengthening from my hip flexor. And then you can add that little bit of a side stretch to the left, which for me enhances it, and it feels really good. But I have to keep drawing my tailbone down, my ribs a little bit in and then up. And it helps to use my Ujjayi coming up. Okay, and then up through center, gently release your hands, interlace, hook thumbs, hold your strap, hands on hips, whatever works for you. If you're interlacing, just try other thumb on top. Okay, hug those elbows back, straighten your front leg, but don't lock the knee. Err on the side of more of a bend than less, and then fold down and see how that goes for you. If it feels stressful, if it's sort of causing tension in your body, then release your hands. But if being here for a few more breaths feels okay for you, then stay. And then when you're ready, you can gently release the hands. And if you're loving being in that shape with your hands behind you, that's totally fine. You can stay. And again, if you want to do that little rise and fall that we often do, please feel free to. Otherwise, just breathing. And you're moving internally, but maybe it looks a little bit more still from the outside. Maybe you're just being in one place, breathing with that. So nice. And then walk the hands forward, bring your blocks if you're using them. Soften both knees a little bit, hug the inner thighs, tip forward and try lifting that back leg. Flex or point the foot is okay, but think about rolling the inner thigh up towards the ceiling. So the hips are really square. Heart is low, but keep the gaze down on the floor. And then if you'd like to try balancing with your hands on your ankle, give it a shot. Use your breath to help you balance. So nice. Next, exhale, gently release the foot to the earth. Halfway lift, maybe make a sound as you exhale. Step back to your downward facing dog or hands and knees and go ahead and take your vinyasa. This, I would guess, will be our last one. So if you want one, go for it. Okay, and then we're gonna play a little bit with forearm stand, and there's lots of prep for that, so don't feel like you have to go into the whole pose. But if you know that you like inverting and you might wanna try, and you have a wall or a door that's stable enough that you can kick up against, go ahead and move your mat there. So I do find that a block is quite helpful for this. It just kind of gives you something to grip onto. So if you have a block like this, you can put it between the L's of your hands. You can also do it sort of freehand. And honestly, for me, it's okay, because what often happens is that the hands want to come together. What we don't want is for the shoulders to collapse in towards the ears. But if you can kind of keep your elbows steady and it's more comfortable for your hands to have the fingers closer together, I don't mind that, but just be aware of what's going on with your shoulders, okay? So you can bring your elbows down into that shape. And again, you don't have to go into the full thing. We've basically been doing this in the class already, okay? So you can be right here. You can tuck your toes and bring your bum up. And then the next step would be bringing your feet a little closer to your elbows and looking at the ground. So you want to think shoulders over the elbows. So in the prep, at least you're looking kind of right into the square of your forearms. Okay, you can stay there or you can send a leg up. And if you've got the wall there and you're comfortable, you could try a little kick. You do need a little bit of momentum for this one. And maybe you get up against the wall. If you do, you want to think of a slight back bend, but I find it quite helpful to think of pointing my sternum bone down to the earth and trying to get the rest of my body nice and long rather than collapsing at the lower back. Okay, and if you're down, maybe just try lifting the other leg and see what that feels like. You can also take a break in between. And think about that standing L shape that we did a moment ago, hugging the inner thighs together and sending the leg up to the sky like that. Nice, Danielle, yeah, you got it. I like child's pose as a rest or when I'm done with this pose. And I like my hands resting beside my hips because the shoulders can kind of drop. So let's take a few more breaths. If you want to come back up and try it again, feel free. If you have a question, please feel free to ask. Danielle, you look great over there. I think that's just a question of repetition, starting to find that kind of balancing point. It looks to me like all your alignment is good and everything from what I can see from here. Yeah. Good. Okay. Beautiful. Okay. So when you're ready, just resting in that child's pose if you're not already, letting the shoulders drop. You may want to come to sit on your heels and just take a moment in an upright position. And if you're here with me, you could hold opposite elbows around behind your back, and you're also welcome to sit on your bum here on a prop if sitting on your heels isn't good for you. We're not going to be here too long. Just nice and soft and relaxed with the shoulders. Let your head fall forward, and then gently roll it to the right. Just as far as feels good. Don't crunch the back of your neck. Then chin forward and over to the left. Chin forward and then gently up through center. Release your hands. You might want to roll the shoulders a couple of times. You might also want to turn the head from side to side. Okay, so from here, if you have a bolster, I'd love for you to grab it. If you don't have a bolster, you could use a pillow, a rolled towel, a soft block. If you just have bricks, just have one handy. If you happen to have an extra rolled yoga mat, it's actually a pretty good option here as well. And then have a seat on your prop so that you're close to the top edge of your mat. Start with the feet out in front of us. Okay, and then sit a little bit more on your right hip and bring the knees together like a mermaid sitting on a rock. Is kind of what this pose is sometimes called. And then you're just going to gently twist towards the back of your mat. So to the right if you're sitting on your right hip. And then turn to the front again, swing that left leg, the top leg, around behind you. You can pause here in this 90-90 position, or we'll come into pigeon. So you're bringing your right heel in a little closer to you probably, leaning forward to square the pelvis on the bolster or prop. And if you just have a block like this, you would just wedge it underneath your elevated hip, okay? If you don't have a big enough prop to go under both of them. Straight back leg, if you can, press into the top of the foot, lengthen your heart. And then when and if it feels right for you, you can fold down onto your elbows or onto some blocks. And I find that a little propping in this pose, like under the chest or the forehead or both, like with a block or whatever you've got, it just takes some of the work out of the shoulders and it makes this pose a little more easeful to be in. Okay, take your time here. There are days when I want to be in pigeon for like minutes and days where 5 breaths is enough. So just check in with yourself there. And if you feel ready to come out, let's gently press into the hands and rise. Whenever you're ready, okay, you can lean over onto that right hip, swing the left leg around to the front, and we can rock the knees side to side. And then we'll sit on that left hip and bring the knees together so the shins are roughly parallel with the short edge of the mat. And then just gently turn to the back, just a mild twist. And then turn to the front, swing that top leg to the back. This is a pose called 90-90. I would do it without a prop. And it works well for some people's hips, okay? Not mine, personally. I'm more comfortable in pigeon, but I think that's just the way my bones are shaped. Okay, so the back leg goes straight and the front heel will probably come in a little bit closer. Press the top of the back foot into the mat, lengthen, and then you can fold down. And again, feel free to use blocks or props under your elbows, chest, and or forehead, just wherever is comfortable for you so that you can soften a little bit into the shape. And in an ideal world, pigeon feels like a stretch in your hips, so kind of outer hip, maybe inner thigh, depending on what's going on in your hips. But there shouldn't be any pain or really even any sensation in the knee. So if your knee is bugging you, try adjusting the angle of your foot, bringing it in a little closer, usually will help. Or shuffle a little bit forward or back on your prop, or add more of a prop underneath your bum. And if it's not working for you, try the 90-90 pose or any hip opener that does work for you. And again, if you're feeling like you need more time here, take your time. If you're feeling ready to come out, you can gently press into your hands. Lean over onto that left hip, bring the back leg to the front. And you can wash your knees. Okay, so we're just gonna take a last shape. And I have something in mind, but if you have something in mind, if there's something that you feel like you need to do, please feel free to complete your practice in your own way. Okay, otherwise, you might want to sit up on a nice low prop and take your legs out in front of you in a nice V shape. Sit up nice and tall, flexing the feet. You can bend the knees as much as you need to, and just gently fold forward. Think of a long spine, soft neck. If any of this hurts or feels uncomfortable, just back off. There should be no pulling or yanking. And again, feel free to stay there as long as it's serving you. When you're ready to come out, you can gently roll up. I like to kind of wobble my feet in towards me, and we'll prepare for Shavasana. So this isn't strictly Shavasana, but we didn't do a ton of back bends today. And if you like it, if you feel like you can relax in the pose, you could lay back over your bolster or some other soft piece of support. But it should feel really relaxing. Like, I don't want it to be something that you have to think about, okay? So if you like this one, it can be Shavasana if it feels good. You could also have the bolster under your knees. You could have nothing, just laying flat on your back. You could lay on your side or even be seated. It really is just where you feel like you can rest the most and receive the work of our practice. When you get there, you might want to take a deep breath. And then just let go of any conscious effort, even in your breath. Just take a moment to notice how you're feeling. Observing how the energy is flowing through you now. And if you'd like to stay and you have the time, of course, you're welcome to do that. Otherwise, you can begin to deepen your breath and gently invite some movement. Maybe taking a stretch with your arms up over your head. Curling over to one side. And then pressing up to a seat. You can have your hands at your heart or over top or wherever feels right. Gently bow your mind to your hands, taking a moment to honor and acknowledge whatever it took for you to get here to your practice today. To honor and acknowledge the long and complex lineage of teachers that is with us in our yoga. To honor and acknowledge the sacredness of the land that we practice on. And thank you for sharing that practice with me.